Okay, so units 5 to 7 will then move on to the operations aspect of the value creation process. And in Unit 5 we will discuss it from, if you want, a top level, from an eagle's view. We look at operations strategy and process design. So this is very much the top or middle management echelon that we're talking about. It is the question of not only formulating an operations strategy, but bringing it in line with other strategies the company has, the company strategy in itself, maybe even if the company is part of a bigger consortium, then that strategy as well. So there is an element of strategy integration, but also, of course, the formulation of strategy. And we will be looking at different approaches to strategy and at strategy formulation. So where do you find your goals and how do you operationalize them? How do you translate them onto a tactical level? There is also the particularities of service operations to consider. You will know that initially operations management started out as a manufacturing industry orientated field of study, and nowadays, of course, service companies are so much more important, equally important, if not more important, than manufacturing companies. So we will also look at what is particular with regard to service operations that has something to do with the markets, the entry and exit barriers for service companies are different in service markets than they are in goods and manufacturing sectors. So that is the first half of the unit, talking about strategy, strategy formulation, strategy integration, and the differences between manufacturing and service strategies. The lecture will start this topic, so this will be the first thing that introduces you to the kind of thinking. And in the lecture, apart from what I've just mentioned, I will also talk about sustainable strategies, because I suppose you all are very much aware that sustainability has become a huge topic in operations research, of equal importance to the quality factor, and in many ways influencing the way we look at the quality of operations processes. The second part of the unit will then deal with process design, which means the design of operations processes. You may think initially, well, this is just a one-off. Whenever I establish a new company or build a new plant or something, then I have to design processes. But the way we in operations management look at these things is very much to say this is a constant revision, a constant rebuilding of processes, a constant controlling and checking whether the current processes are really at optimum configuration, produce optimum results, produce the kind of results in terms of cost, quality, and so on that we want them to produce. And if they do not, then to know what to do about it, how to redesign processes. Again, there is a big difference, obviously, in designing service or manufacturing processes, so we will look at that. We will also look at different types and varieties of processes, which depends obviously not only on the goods you produce or the services you produce, but the volume of goods, whether you are producing for a mass market, whether you are producing individualized customer based solutions to problems. So along this continuum there is obviously a huge variety of processes and possibilities of process design and do's and don'ts that you have to take into account when designing a process for your company. We're also looking at key decision areas. Again, while there is this wide variety of processes, there are a couple of decisions to be made that remain more or less the same, at least for all manufacturing companies and for all service production companies. And of course nowadays you have an increasing trend towards the merger of these two realms, if you want. So you find more and more companies that are actually a hybrid between both. And finally, I've already mentioned the performance of the processes. So obviously when you design a process, you have to think about how you measure what the process then does in order to work out if it's optimal. And we will also talk about different ways to measure that performance.